who is a Black feminist performance artist, writer of Haitian descent, who is going to share some facets of her multidimensional work with us today, performing Haitian elsewhere. I just want to share one word here, why we're here on this day. On May 18th, every year, Haitians celebrate Flag Day, which honors the creation of their flag in 1803. And just in the prior event we had, we were talking about the Haitian Revolution, which was the first successful revolution of enslaved peoples and escaped and formerly enslaved peoples that overthrew French colonial domination over a 13-year period, 1791 to 1804. And Haiti established the first Black independent nation in the Americas, and has since been a beacon of Black liberation, as well as liberation for all those who are oppressed by white supremacy and the global order. So we really uplift Haiti on this week and what Haiti can represent at the core of even Black studies, feminist studies, what the Multicultural Center represents. And we're also gathered a couple days after the for May 17th, the International Day Against Homophobia, Transphobia, and Biphobia. So we're here honoring those who live creatively. The rights to live creatively is this organizing principle that my colleagues Mario Lamotte and Mamira DJ Prosper and I, we co-edited a special issue of the Journal of Haitian Studies, which has long been published out of UCSB and now housed in the Department of Black Studies. And we just co-edited a special issue centering gender and sexuality that looks at Haitian queer and feminist world making historically, in the present, in the future, through scholarship, artistry, activism. And so we're here also celebrating that gathering of minds, indebted to Professor Omi Tinsley, who's chair of Black Studies. The work that Professor Tinsley has been doing forever, as well as like really being an anchor point for recentering Haitian studies in Black studies after Claudine Michel, who's here with us, who was the chair of Black Studies prior, and also really an anchor for the Journal of Haitian Studies. And Associate Editor Rose Elfman is in the room, and I have to give a shout out to Rose. We're really making the editorial process one of care and support for all of our different kinds of scholarship in multiple languages. And there are some older publications of the Journal of Haitian Studies out in the hall for you to take on your own. I know we don't really like have books anymore. And you can value the actual handheld journal of scholarship about Haiti from people all over the world. Maybe you studied French early on, or you could look at what Haitian Creole looks like on the page. So grab an old issue of the Journal of Haitian Studies, check out the special issue online. You can access it through the library. And we're gonna be spending some time in Haitian performance worlds. We have this sacred art behind us, so at the end of the talk, please also walk around and enjoy the sacred aesthetics and principles here, like made material through these sequin banners. I want to also thank the Orphalea Center, which has been really supportive of our work, and we're live streaming this event for folks outside of this space, so we can actually create more accessibility for the kind of work we're doing here on campus. And I'm sure I'm forgetting other things, but maybe I'll remember and say them later because I want to turn it over to our guest of honor. So thank you all for being here.
pen. And if it's available to you, close your eyes or soften your gaze. What are you carrying? What are you spilling? What are you returning to? What are you moving away from? Who or what are you remembering? Sometimes when I come into a new space, I bring someone with me. I don't mean physically necessarily, although that can be fun. But I bring someone with me who may not actually embody be able to come. But I want to have them with me, so I bring them. If that sounds like something you might want to do, take a moment now and invite someone in. This is an invitation. This is not for your hungry ghost to come and invade you. That's not what we're doing here. No one gets to come who you don't want to come. But if there's someone who you want to have with you right now, crossing into this space without body, just hanging out with you in this room, bring them in now. This is who I'm bringing today. This is Gabrielle Civil, who was an extraordinary poet of Haitian descent. And this is her latest book that came out, I don't know, maybe a few days before she passed away or just after she passed away. And it actually speaks to something that Dr. Carlos Chao just talked about, which is there were Haitians who went to other sort of newly independent African nations, and they built their lives there. And Danielle's parents were two of those people, and they went to Congo. And so this is one of her many books that's about that experience. And this is a poem in that book. Is there someone here who wouldn't mind reading it? I mean, many of you, I'm sure, are reading it just off the screen. But there is something that happens when you bring it into your body, when you bring it into your voice. In fact, what we all read. I love that you're nodding. Thank you for that. Now, with all of these invitations that I'm offering you, like most good things, it's a consent-based practice. If there is something that you don't want to do, don't do it. I don't even need to give you permission for that, but I think it's sometimes helpful. You're in a collective thing, there's a person that's elevated up, so you feel like, oh, I have to do what they say. No, you don't, but I'm still gonna offer this invitation. On the count of three, I'm gonna invite all of us, myself included, to read this poem by Gabrielle Civil called Because. And if you want to get in on the action, get in. I invite you. 1, 2, 3.
Because empires sever. Because diasporas disrupt empires.
What does it mean to disrupt? Let's read the poem again. Okay.
Because empires sever.
Because
diasporas disrupt empires.
Turn to your neighbor for a moment What does it mean to disrupt? Turn to your neighbor, talk it up. Loosen your lips. What does it mean?
Loosen your lips.
Things to do with it. Yeah, so many things to share and to show. So I know I gotta speed it up. All right, disrupt. Yes.
We talked about that each of the implementation.
Interrupting the goal of the status quo. And it has a negative connotation because the status quo doesn't like that. What else? Disrupt.
A disruption, what's that?
Oh, go ahead.
It can be temporary or permanent.
Ah, temporary or but when you have permanent disruption, is that a new status quo? This is a very Haitian studies question. I'm asking here. Woo, I love that, disturbing the linear. You're ready to read one of my books. Disturbing the linear. Well, say it again. Oh. Good trouble. Ooh. The fortunes help. You always know. You should listen. Listen to them because that's what we're gonna do. I feel like Danielle has told us something here. If we're gonna talk about performing Haitian elsewhere, so if I'm gonna try to manifest something or activate that, I feel like this is not a passive experience. You also should become agents of disruption. There needs to be an interruption of the status quo in the space. You've come, and I think, here you are, UCSB. You must be excellent student, just to even be here. You must be excellent. And you know how to come and sit and pretend like you're listening. But what happens if we break that status quo and just for a short amount of time, for about 2.5 minutes, you are given an invitation or you're offered an opportunity to shift. Or what my friend Petra Cuppers, who's an incredible sort of crypt performance maker and theorist, who also teaches at the University of Michigan, by the way. She has a practice called drifting or crypt drifting, where you actually allow yourself to move. You change your orientation in space just to determine what might that do for you. Some of us have come from experiences or heritages where we have had to change location. What? Where we have had to move, where we have been moved, or we have been shifted. But now, I'm going to offer you an opportunity to drift, to shift, to not just be stuck, but maybe it isn't stuck for you, I'm sorry, to not just allow yourself to stay or be in a chair in this moment, or you can even figure out a way to drift in a chair. We're going to take 2.5 minutes. And it could be an opportunity for you to, I don't know, look at these incredible sacred banners up here. It could be an opportunity for you to feel the velvet. It could be an opportunity for you to, I don't know, step outside for a minute and come back. But we're going to start. Does everybody understand what the invitation is? Does everybody understand what the invitation is? Yes. Let's try it. It starts now.
Zora was ready.
I'm not hearing my sound. You can change lenses or not. Yeah, texture is involved.
And you can make it on sex appeal. Mama got to take you back.
Uh-oh.
Mama's got to.
We have to start that from the beginning, y'all, because that's too good. We started with the sex appeal, but I appreciate that, but let's go.
Oh, mama got to take.
All right. Sherry. Check it out.
Mama got to take you back.
Allow yourself to
To
play with levels.
teach you all the things you like.
What would it be like to go up
Mama got to take you back.
and touch
Something
something higher?
Teach you all the things you like. You never got time to sweet.
Or get low,
Mama got to take you back. You never got time.
or move in a way that you're normally not allowed. Stand in a line.
Sex appeal.
When you go in a circle,
Mama's got to take you back. Teach you and she sends you back to me.
then you let yourself take a stretch because you need it.
Mama got to take you back. Angelico, teach you all the things you like. Angelico, mama got to take you back. Angelico, teach you all the things you like. He never let go to make us stew. Mama got to take you back. The biscuits long, I can hardly chew. Mama got to take you back. If I'm signing the ring is full of hole, mama got to take you back. Why you running away, a big mixed hole. Mama got to take you back. Mama's got to take you back, teach you all the things you like. When she sends you back to me, we live together in harmony.
You have a few more seconds. Have you done
Oh, okay.
everything you wanted to do?
Oh,
with
that's,
the
oh,
trip?
okay. It's 5 minutes?
Have you
Yeah.
picked it?
Angelico, your mama got to take you back. Angelico, teach you all the things you would like.
Wow. Does anybody recognize that singer? There's Gabrielle Civil, and I want to bring this into our time together. Because I was just at home in Detroit where I was born and raised, and I was helping my mother go through a hip replacement. And we were listening to music, and my father was there, and that song came on, and he started to laugh, you know, he's like, oh my God, this song is so ridiculous. It's like, I'm gonna send you back because you don't know how to cook and clean, and, you know, it's a very sexist, traditional song. But he said to me, it's funny, we had a Haitian version of that song. How many of you have heard that song before by Harry? Okay, cool. And I hadn't heard it actually, believe it or not. You know, I am a fan of Harry, but there's a Haitian version. I won't listen to all of it, but here's one rendition. was that my father said, oh yeah, we have a version of that. But then when I did research, of course, it's a Haitian song. And what it is that Harry Belafonte created an English version of it. And then, as sort of a diaspora person, the version that I come to know first is the English version, not even realizing at all that there was a Haitian precedent. One of the things that we talked about when we gathered together yesterday was how Haitian studies is absolutely foundational to Black studies.
Mhm.
You know, Dr. Claudine Michel said that Haitian studies is the original Black Lives Matter. Whether it's about the revolution, whether it's about the questions of debt and indemnity, whether it's about recognizing the personhood of people of African descent in a New World context, that idea of there being a kind of Haitian antecedent that I experienced learning about that song is really fundamental, I would say, to a recognition of how Haitian cultural, political, social, economic realities of history have really translated, transformed, moved. And so even when you are elsewhere, even in the elsewhere, there are plenty of opportunities, there are plenty of instances of a performing of Haitianness. I also wanted to bring in that song because, you know, it's about the refusal of Angelique to like cook and clean and do whatever. Like she's bad, so they want to send her back. And in many ways, I feel like I'm a bad Haitian daughter, okay? I don't cook. I publicly put my body out in places and in ways that people in my family are sometimes a little concerned about. I don't always love or want to have sex with the right people. I mean, there's a lot of things there that maybe don't match up with whatever I don't know, maybe some of you here have experienced that, feeling like you don't live up to what the expectation might be. And so there's this idea of like, okay, we're going to send you back. But there's also so much affection and love there and so much possibility for that disruption, for that good trouble in the disobedience, in the refusal. And when I did more research on that song, I actually learned that it's an anti-colonial song. And that it was created during the US occupation of Haiti, which occurred between 1915 and 1934. Are there any of you here who've done research on this song? You even know it better than me. Someone like Elizabeth McAllister would probably know. But apparently there was a white officer who brought his wife to Haiti and she wasn't feeling it, okay? And so she went back to the United States and then all the people around started laughing at him, laughing at her, and made up this song. But it was also about, who are you people from the United States coming and trying to tell us, you don't know how to cook and clean, you don't know how to cook, you don't know how to do these things. You're trying to tell us how to be and you don't know how to be either. And so that's an underlying kind of level of that song as well. So I wanted to bring that to you. And there are many, if you go to Spotify, I made a public Spotify list, and there are 5 different versions of that you can hear that are kind of interesting over time. But for now, I'm sorry. I know you want to do that, but we're going to move forward. One of the things that Dr. Omi talked about yesterday as well was the need to have a politics of citation. As a Black feminist, I really believe that citation is a form of love. It's a way of claiming ancestry and lineage. It's a way of listening and a way of kind of building community on the page. Sometimes things like footnotes have had a bad rap because they've been used in ways to make people feel kind of excluded or like it's too academic. And I sound like Bell Hooks, I would say, if any of you know who she is, really powerful Black feminist. She proved that you could have, you know, scholarly, rigorous work without necessarily using all of the traditional trappings. Okay, so there is a model for people who are able to not show, let's say, all of the different people that they've read in a way of communicating. And in the meantime, we still have a robust tradition in Black feminism of quoting and especially lifting up the people in our own scholarly communities and listening to what they say and sharing it. So a part of what I want to share today as I bring in some of my work is some of what I heard yesterday and our conversation and convening at the launch of the special issue of the Journal of Haitian Studies. And one of the things that I heard was from Sabine Lamour, who was actually zooming in from Haiti, if I'm not mistaken, who asked that question, like, what are alternate ways to perform research in Haitian studies? But we could even ask in general, like, what are alternate ways to perform research? I would propose to you that disrupting, shifting, migrating, drifting, moving, that in and of itself can be a way to conduct research, to investigate, to inquire. But there's another way that I'm really going to be talking about today, and that is performance. And Maria Lamotte here, one of the things you talked about was performance, or something you said, was performance as critical difference. How many of you identify as performers in one way or another? Okay. So not everyone here, and for that reason, I feel like it might be helpful, just when I talk about performance and specifically the work that I do, here's one quotation that helps to give a little bit of context. This is from Guillermo Gomez Peña, who is a really interesting kind of Mexican performance artist who's done a lot of work around the US-Mexico border. Performance art is neither acting nor spoken word poetry. We theorize about art, politics, and culture, but where academic theorists have binoculars, we have radar. We chronicle our times, but unlike journalists or social commentators, our accounts are non-narrative and polyvocal. This was a performance I did called Oration for Ancestors. Who's sitting with me in that chair? Is the chair empty? I didn't think so. Our main artworks are our bodies, written with semiotic, political, ethnographic, cartographic, and mythical implications. We are what others aren't, say what others don't, and occupy cultural spaces that are often overlooked or dismissed. For me, that's been a North Star in terms of my own practice, what I think about performance and what I think performance can do. If you're interested in reading more from Gomez Peña, this article is open access online, and it's called In Defense of Performance Art. So that's a resource for you. And I can just say, over the last 25 years, I have made over 50 performances, solo and collaborative, premiered around the world in West Africa, in Southern Africa, Canada, the Caribbean, the United States, et cetera, et cetera. And as a part of my practice, I've also written books as a way to kind of contextualize what I do and to provide my own sort of narrative, because I just wasn't sure that anyone else would be able to recognize the different kinds of influences and experiences that led me to do what I did, and also to try to offer some resources for people who wanted maybe to make performance but didn't know how, because that was me. So I was looking for resources. So there are different books that I've done, and we'll dip into a couple of them in a moment. But I want to say from the very beginning, Haiti and being a person of Haitian descent was a part of what I have done. Even back in 2003, I made a performance that was restaging the fall of Queen Ana Kaona, Taino Queen, in what is now sort of the island of quote unquote Hispaniola of Haiti and the Dominican Republic. And I kind of restaged her overthrow, where I kind of threw a party and they overthrew me. And you see that there's a chair there that's fallen over and I'm sort of on the ground, and we had a wonderful chaotic time. I talk about that a little bit. That performance is in this little book, Ghost Gestures, which we'll hear a little bit, not necessarily from this performance, but we'll hear from that book in a minute. But that's just to show you how long Haiti has been one of the themes in what I do, okay? More recently, Dr. Carlos Chao talked about the earthquake as being something, the 2010 earthquake, where was it 200,000 people died? And it's not a large country. It's a lot of people to die from a natural event. And a big question I had is, as a diaspora person, what do I do with this grief? What do I do with the feeling of loss when I wasn't there, when I don't live there, when I'm removed generationally? What do I do with that? So I created a trilogy of works, and here are some images. This was from the first one, which was on the anniversary of the earthquake. It was called Feud. And I used about 500 pounds of dirt and a shovel and some suitcases. A couple of years later, I thought a lot about diaspora loss in terms of the Middle Passage. This person right here, actually, we mentioned her yesterday. That's Dr. Rosamond S. King right there in the white. We had a trio of performances. And so Wura, Natasha Ogunji was first, Dr. King was second, and then this is me. And this was in Ghana. And I was interested in creating a ritual kind of right at the Atlantic. And those are cash register rolls that you see. And I take those and then bring it all into the ocean. Third piece in the trilogy, Fugue de Montréal, was really about a very specific immigrant story. So moving now away from kind of the homeland where the earthquake happened, trying to reckon with history and diaspora with the Atlantic Ocean. And now we're in Montreal, and the pictures are kind of dark because it was pouring rain when I was doing it, like you're doing an outdoor thing, and next thing you know, it's pouring rain. So maybe the spirits were talking to me. And I was using a Haitian doll, a shell, a television set, my body, and then 500, like it was like a 500-foot red extension cord, like a power line that I was harnessing and playing with. So those are just some images to give you context in terms of some of the work that I've done relative to Haiti and how I kind of attempt to embody some of the questions that have come to me as a person of Haitian descent living in the United States and as a bad Haitian daughter, a bad Creole, you know, who's running around all these other places, but still feeling very connected to my own heritage and trying to understand what that might mean. One question that came up yesterday, what are the boundaries of the law? This was artist José Azor talking to movie psychologist Sharon Vizier. And for those who don't know, Loi is like a Haitian sacred spirit. And that's the root. These spirits are the root actors in the kind of syncretic indigenous Haitian religion of Voodoo. And that idea of like, do they just stay in the boundaries of Haiti, or do they move? Or how do they move? Or how do we understand Haitian sacred spirit? How might that relate to the kind of spirit that moves when you make performance? How might that relate to the kind of presence that gets invoked when you're doing live art action? Those became interesting questions for me. And connecting to especially a question of I think like many migrants, immigrants, children of immigrants also grapple with this question. What does it mean to be in a place and feel out of place in that place at the same time? How many of you ever felt that? In a place and out of place at the same time? Okay, so that for me was the central part of my latest book, which took place, it's been some time now. This is a documentation of work that I did as a Fulbright Fellow in Mexico. So it's all about this sort of question, what does it mean now? It's no longer just about the United States, let's say, and Haiti, or even Montreal and Haiti, or France and Haiti. Now we're in this whole other environment. And what on earth might that mean? So I'm going to just give you a little taste of that. ¿De dónde eres? Where are you from? To some people then and now, what a surprise. What are you doing here? Mexico? I thought your family was Haitian. Wait, wasn't your mother born in the South? Yes, Too often as a Black woman, my geography has arrived, already circumscribed. Captivity and slave roots, Harriet Jacobs in her grandmother's attic, Harriet Tubman with her do-rag daring do. The Underground Railroad, the Great Migration, family reunions, roots which I never saw, diaspora loss, slave castles, Black to Africa, freedom marches, Rosa Parks sitting in the front of the bus, my father's flight from Port-au-Prince, bulging suitcases on his summer trips back home, yellow cardboard cases of rum babancourt from the airport, Haitian cousins sitting all day at INS for green cards, brain drain, scholarships, and the Kingdom of Detroit. I receive and claim all this inheritance as mine. Still, I wanted more. Where was wandering, witnessing, broadening horizons, actually not knowing the way? I sensed something else out there, off the beaten path, another archaeology, an unexpected bequest, my body translating, shifting across and between borders, freedom, pleasure, and delight, an expanding trajectory. Why aren't you going to Africa? My Aunt Mary grumbled. I do want to go to Africa. I will go. I did go and want to go again. At the same time, ancestral return weighs heavy with expectation. Standing in the door of no return on Gorée Island, I am expected by my Aunt Mary, by tour guides, by cultural agencies, by locals who feel sorry for me, by people at home, maybe even by you, by people who feel proud, by people who feel wistful, by people who feel lost, by people who feel hopeful. I am expected to feel a certain way. But what if I don't? But what if I don't? I encounter circling back as a demanding precedent and pressure of feeling. But when circling around a massive pre-Columbian African head in Veracruz, no one expects me to be there. Or at the ruins in Tulum or Teotihuacan or the urban monument of El Angel, how do these shifts in location inform my sense of diasporic Blackness in the world and in myself? In Mexico, the expected response was unclear, making me feel more free to feel. How many of y'all have been to Mexico? I mean, it's we're in California now, Santa Barbara. So I guess it's like, how many of you have been across the street? It's like, that's it. How many of you have been next door? How many of you have been to Mexico City? I'm gonna say my time in Mexico City was probably the most transformative time in my life. And it was a time where I really had to push and break and disrupt some of my own habits and attitudes and assumptions and thoughts about my own identity, my body, my heritage, sexuality, all of it. Because everything I was so sure that I knew, because I was in a place, but also out of place, there was an opportunity for something different to occur. And that's what I think this book was about. And also a lot of my performance practice is about trying to get into that elsewhere to understand something different or new about myself and about the world. There's a wonderful scholar and artist named Gina Athenae-Ulysse, and she says, Haiti needs new narratives. And that is what I feel I'm trying to do in my own work and also what I'm trying to live. I want to live a new narrative What is a narrative? I don't know yet what it is. It has not already been prescribed by anyone, including me. There's an opportunity for surprise. Speaking of surprise, so Dr. Chapman may have mentioned that this special issue is about sexuality. And so I would be remiss if I did not read a little bit about what happened in Mexico. I mean, are you all interested in that? We could skip that. Any interest in that? Any interest? Okay.
What did Dr. Charles just say?
This is from the book, it's called Desired Paths. The trajectory of my sexuality has taken many twists and turns, experienced serious expansion and retraction. While lately, I've been rocking a robust art nun life, hot tea in the morning and fuzzy socks in bed at night, I have felt and do feel attraction for many different people in different genders, hues, sizes, shapes, languages, and nationalities. My time in Mexico reminds me of the ardor of desire, how things could be different for me, how in fact I have been different. In Mexico, I was boy crazy, still a hardcore feminist. Sisterhood is powerful. I had more male friends than ever before in my life. Moreover, for once, boys acted crazy about me. I met L on the way to Sanborn's to get some chicken tortilla soup. He asked me if I had the time. Sometime later, when we were naked, I spied the watch on his wrist. His body was wiry and firm. His penis long and effective. Like clockwork, he showed up for sex. I met F when I walked into a little taqueria. He was reading poems and eating a torta. He looked up and smiled. We started to chat in Spanish and turned to English. He translated me. We never had sex, but it still felt hot. I did have sex with D, whom I met at a performance art show protesting US genetic modification of corn in vivid, violet gestures. And with C, whom I dated and with whom I fussed and fought and swooned over that corny song, Mi Unicornio Azul, when he crooned it to me one sweet, boozy night. And with E, whom I loved, kissing the spider tattoos on his neck and the snakes below his belly button made stars twinkle under my skin. And he seemed to really see me. And you have to understand, I mean, I'm reading this now, and this is why my father was like, I read that book. It's like, I read that. And then I realized, like, oh, okay, this is what he's talking about. What he didn't want to say, but this is what it was. You have to understand, I am not usually flirty or brassy, the naive star of a rom-com or raunchy sex romp. I am either a well put together bougie boho black boss, and that's not that often, or a complete disaster nerd with unpainted nails, unruly hair, and 16 books in my bag. But when I lived in Mexico, I was out of my usual box. Maybe I landed in a foreigner box, a dumb gringo box, an exoticized Black female box, or a box I never even knew. Who can really say what our bodies mean to anyone else? But just the possibility of being seen in a new way. My body was appreciated as it arrived, and I was so in love with the world, then and there, desired and desiring, curious and open, happy to be in heat, living dreams, pulsing with body, my body, My body arrived, the radio dial turned, and I got picked up with a different frequency. My body hummed. Is it reading? Is she doing a talk? What is she doing? I don't know. It's all the above. One of the things I wanted to point out too, and I know time is getting away from me, but we're coming near to the end of it. But I wanted also to think about, there was a question actually that later I think I'm going to ask Dr. Charles as well, in terms of what are kind of global migrant aesthetics? Or is there a kind of diaspora aesthetic that's different from maybe what you might see in the mainland? And how do we know what that is? Or how can we tell if we are a part of innovating or creating that? Or are we taking something and just changing it in a way that we shouldn't? I know for me, ritual is very important in my work. And I feel like live art action for me is always a kind of invitation into ritual space. It doesn't always have to be a kind of religious space, but it does usually feel like a sacred space to me, even if there can be profane things happening within the space. Even if you can have sex and especially, I guess, if you can have sex and sexuality and humor and connection and the body within that space, but it's connected to that kind of ceremony, a ceremony of life, a ceremony of materials and materiality and energetic forces and changing. And so one of the performances that I made in Mexico was really a ritual of turning into this doll that I saw there. It was a doll. Have you ever seen, I mean, I used to call it a little mammy doll, like a little muñequita. You know, she had like a little sash, et cetera, et cetera. And I would just see them around. And in Mexico, they'd be like, oh no, we never see race. Now, mind you, that's a big thing. But also, I was a guest. So when people told me this, I just listened. I was like, you know what, thank you for telling me about your experience at this place. And I feel like I'm talking to people here who, like Slajin, who's from Haiti, or my friend who was from West Africa, that their experience seemed different from what you're telling me, but that's okay. You know, you're telling me this. And then I would see this figurine in this doll, and I thought, oh, I should become this doll. But in order to become the doll, I needed to first create a rum ritual. And so this is just a little, I'll show you, kind of taking some of the postures here, you know, bringing in the tin on my head. And I was working also with coffee and with white Negrita rum. I open the bottle and pour a libation to the ancestors. I move the bottle in the air to the four corners. I cup my right hand and pour rum into it and drink. I cup my left hand and pour rum and let it fall into the basin. I set down the bottle and rub my rum-washed hands together. I summon the public. I take each person, cup their hands and pour rum into them. They can drink it or let it fall. They enter the space. For me, that was about performing a kind of Haitian elsewhere. It was not a very specific, let's say, authentic Haitian ritual, but it was something that felt very informed by my exposure and understanding or experience of Haitian cultural tradition. And then there I was in Mexico, invoking it there as a part of this live art practice. That is an example for me of performing kind of a Haitian elsewhere. And here you see me becoming the doll afterwards. I mean, there's a lot of images of that, but that gives you the sense of how many people were there and me and what I started off like that and ended up like this. And then, of course, all of that white rum that was poured in the basin, I got doused with it. I doused myself with it at the end. This brings me to something that Dr. Amishek and Natasha Tinsley said yesterday: spirit and law as archives for me, the feeling of that rum coming over me was like accessing a kind of archive. One of the things that multiple people talked about yesterday, alternative archives. And thinking about the ways that we need to create alternate kind of containers of our own cultural, personal, gendered, sexual experiences. I'm almost done, but I'm gonna zoom through these because I want you just to see this beautiful person who's sitting next to me, Gustavo Villeda. He was a painter that I collaborated with on this Ex Voto project, where this was an alternate archive in Mexico. We would talk through it and we created these paintings on 10 that were documenting key moments like that. This is a performance that I did for Obama's inauguration. This is when I met Elizabeth Catlett, who's an amazing African-American expatriate painter. And had my birthday with her. Another performance that I did where people were tracing me, again, thinking about documentation. And you see this kind of tracery. So thinking about Haitian women creatives as people who use imagination as praxis. And I feel very proud to feel like I am one of these creatives who's interested in mobilizing my own imagination as a kind of praxis for thinking through questions of art, identity, culture, etc. Finally, for those people who read this, I just wanted to show you, and I have it up here too, we can pass around our very last minute or so. This was the original tourist art book. Someone wants to come up and just grab it and move it around the space, which we made in print on demand. And that's described in the piece of the essay. And that essay, Dr. Nadej, is in this book, The Deja Vu, which was the book before the one that just came out. And I just want to lift up the beautiful and talented Vladimir Civil, who's the person who created the illustrations there. Again, thinking about what does it mean to live in a world where Haitian art has more mobility than Haitian people? That's the question of his. That was the project that we were interested in, that we were working on. And so I wrote a long poem and she created this, and this is for Justice. This is her painting of me as La Sirène. So I'm gonna close just by reading a very teeny bit from that poem, and then we can open up for questions. We're going to 3:15, is that true? Cool, all right. You know, because I could show you a million things, but I'm so curious to know. But I gotta give you a little tourist guide, because in the essay, as some of you all know, I really talk about kind of Haitian art, which is a multi-million-dollar industry. And so you have that contrasted with, you know, the dire circumstances of the people who live there. And so just trying to think through what exactly is happening with that. So take the art tour to Jacmel, Airstream to Boston, Donkey Hoof to Port-au-Prince, Shark Raft to Montreal, Cracked Foot to Cap-Haïtien, Tap Tap to Brooklyn, Dark Limousine au Caire, Visa to Miami, Shop to Quadra-Bouquet, Return. Tracery of tourist art, itinerary en route. In the market, effusion, emulsion, fluorescence of art, dead wood sculptures with death-grip smiles, big-dicked warriors with casket-like shields, flip-flops melting in the sun, and these landscapes of higglers, angular gourd men. In the market, in Santo Domingo, a voiceover in English. Welcome to the colonial zone. The tourist kills 2 birds with 1 stone. Gets Taino Dominicans and Voodoo Haitians at once. Gets white sand and black magic and all-inclusive resorts. Every year, my father brought back more and more decorative survival. Different color schemes, endless proliferation, unredeemable dreams, tourist art, in the presence of absence. In my childhood, more art then we could hang. I'll leave it there. Thank you so much. There's so many different things. Maybe before anyone asks a specific question, if you have it, just turn to your neighbor for a minute and just what struck you with some of the things that you maybe heard or experienced or thought about. Because there was a lot brought together different bodies of work. So just maybe one thing. It's not in my
Yeah.
Maybe we can get some good trouble together.
Sounds like lots to
I know, I'm just
share
nosy
amongst
now.
ourselves.
No. Look at the problem.
Well,
Yeah. For about a year and a half. I lived in Mexico City for a year and a half. And then after that, for the next 2 years, I was basically living between Mexico City and Minneapolis. And I almost moved to Mexico City, but then a close family member passed away. And I realized that it was a little too far from my family.
Thank you so much. That
Thank
was
you.
so beautiful. So embodied. It's such an embodied presentation. I would like you to talk a little bit more about what you said towards the end. Haitian creative women use imagination as praxis. I feel like that's such a Haitian thing. And yeah, can you elaborate a little bit or through your performances, like anything that brings this concept to life?
Well, I really want to lift up Gabrielle Civil because this is a quote again. She was the person that actually, I took that language from something that she said, although I wrote it down because I felt that it resonated so deeply with me. As imagination as a practice. The same way, I mean, there's a whole other body of work that I've done around joy, called Experiments in Joy, and joy not as a feeling, but a practice, a set of things that you do, or people who work in organizing talk about hope, not as a feeling, but a practice, things that you do. In my own work, I think of imagination as a kind of materialization of the image, or I think about, I was trained first as a poet. I'm always like not doing the thing you're supposed to do, okay? So I was trained as a scholar, which is how I know Dr. Tinsley, because we both have PhDs in comparative literature, right? Although yours is a little fancier than mine because you actually had to do Latin. And you did it.
By fancier, you mean more colonial.
Yeah. I mean, and I got to use Creole as one of my foreign languages, which I thought was really awesome. But anyway, but the whole time when I was training as a scholar, I was always identifying as a poet and an artist. So then I was in the poetry community, and I was like, wait a minute, I want to circulate language in the world differently. I want to use my body more, and that moved me into performance and dance and other kinds of realms. But it was always about moving from figures of speech into figures of body. and then moving from kind of visual images into embodied images. And so imagination is the materialization of those like embodied images. That's a kind of an abstract way to talk about it, but so it's not just almost like what you see in your mind, but it's how you live. It's the kind of world that you create for yourself. It's the people that you bring around you that believe in that world with you and don't think that something is wrong with you because you have another kind of vision for how you want to be. That for me is imagination as creative praxis. And it's also for me very much about Haitian women. I was lucky early on to be an editorial assistant when I was a graduate student for Beverly Bell, who edited a book of oral histories of Haitian women who had lived here. Yes, you all know this book? Okay, so I was with her, like typing all that stuff up in New Mexico, whatever. And she theorizes these different kinds of resistance. And she talks about survival in certain contexts for Haitian women as being a form of survival itself as a form of resistance against the challenges of life. And survival also as a creative practice. The kind of resourcefulness and creativity required to survive becomes like being an artist of life. So it's a different way of thinking. I mean, that to me is a kind of trajectory. I've been very privileged, I'm very lucky, as like a first generation middle class person, as a person who is the child of an immigrant and an African-American person who was the first kind of person in her family. I mean, they were first generation college students, et cetera. But I mean, I recognize so many privileges that I had. And also I'm able to see in both bloodlines how people who did not have much, they imagined something different, first mentally and spiritually, and then materially, and in their actions, actually. And so I feel like that is what I'm thinking of when I think about Haitian creative women, like how I'm invoking Gabrielle Civil words in terms of my own life. Yeah, you feel me? Yeah. Other questions or comments?
Right here.
Yeah, please.
First of all, merci Tati, thank you for coming and talking to us. As a diasporic Haitian person as well, I'm very interested in the question you put up about what are the boundaries of the law?
Yeah.
And also how that connects to what we were just talking about with creativity as praxis.
Mm-hmm.
Voodoo as a religion exists with this long history from the revolution until now.
Right.
And I'm wondering, I guess I just want to hear more about your experience as a Haitian person in diaspora and your connection to the law and how you recoup that relationship through distance and through relationships where you feel that guides you in your artistic practice.
Thank you for those questions. And my next book is very much in that whole vein, because I think that even though Haiti and Haitian identity has always been a part of my creative practice from the beginning, the reality of publishing has made it so I had to, in order to get my first book, Swallow the Fish, published, I basically had to split the book in half. And it was a lot more African-American than I would expect. And see, I think we talked about that, where that if you're publishing in the US, there's a desire for it to be US centric, to be more marketable. And I capitulate, it's another story. But I think for me, that relationship as a diaspora person is complicated because I always feel like, am I even good enough? Do I know enough? Am I authentic enough to claim this thing? And yet I feel spirits. I have a strong experience of spirit. But I also come from a background where there was a lot of shame around me and a lot of hiding. So it wasn't that it wasn't there, but it wasn't supposed to be there. So this idea of a kind of like a secrecy or a double speak or a double life. And I feel like that I wasn't interested in that. See, I was the disruptor in my family. I was always the one that was like, wait, why is someone doing that? Or what do we do? Everybody else was sort of quiet. And I was the Gabby one, you know what I mean? I was the one that was like, I don't understand. And I think in that way, it's given me a great gift of sort of like openness and listening. I mean, I feel like for me, we had Dr. Is it Claudine Desir who came, who was the psychologist? Charlene Desir, forgive me, what you talked about, I mean, just the kind of research and study, I feel like to learn. I feel like I am not at that level, but I feel like there's a path there. I would like to keep studying and learning more and expanding out in terms of my experience of the law. I mean, for me, I feel like my favorite thing about Haitian worldbuilding is that it's syncretic. And it pushes back against the idea that what you see is what you get. Okay, so that if you can look at a picture of Joan of Arc and understand that maybe it looks like a white woman on a horse, but that's not all that it is.
Yeah.
Today, things are a little too literal and too reduced down for me. And I feel like that is a model to understand that things can be more than one thing at the same time. And that's actually not a problem. That's a gift. That's an epistemological gift that we've received to recognize that people have created this world. We're like, oh wait, maybe that's what we try, and that's Joan of Arc, or maybe, you know what I'm saying? And I feel like I came through that, like my father, like giving me prayer cards. I mean, just the way it was almost like these little small gifts, and then I had to piece it together, and I'm still piecing it together. So hopefully my book will actually flesh out your question more, because those are the questions I'm interested in actually in opening up. I mean, I did not even know this is a real diaspora thing though, because for me, I was like, oh, but the law they have no boundaries. So just when it said that blew my mind. I was like, oh wait, people in Haiti actually think that it's just there. But see, it can't just be there because we're not there and we still are invested in it. So of course they have to be with us. You know what I mean? But that's where you get into a thing where kind of the migrant and the non-migrant, or the people out there. I have students who've talked about that, like Mexican American students that go back to Mexico and they talk about Day to Day, and their relatives are like, what do you know about Day to Day? That's not your holiday, you know? And there can be a kind of, territoriality and that kind of stuff, in family discussion around things. I'm interested in that as well. So hopefully, hopefully that gives some answer to your question. All right.
Thank you so much. You are just such an amazing performer and speaker.
Oh,
so thank you for
you.
sharing with us. Kind of going off of what you were just saying, I had a question about how do you, through your work and in doing your work, validate your identity as a diaspora person without also confining yourself or feeling confined to the maybe more confining traditions of your culture?
That's a big question, because you want to be respectful of cultures. You want to show that you want to feel like you belong, right? And you also want to be the fullness of who you are and not just replicate whatever it is. And so this is something around, and I remember I used to teach about tradition versus modernity after the independences in West African kind of literature. And there would be people that were struggling with that. Like we were raised a certain thing, or we were told a certain thing, and we have other impulses and we want to do something different, but we are still proud of who we are. But are we still bad if we don't do these things? And what is the generational pressure on us to be a certain kind of way? That's also, I think for me, I feel I think there was a lot of pressure on me in the African-American side, because being a person who came of age as an artist after the Black Arts Movement. So that was like Baraka and Nikki Giovanni and Sonia Sanchez, but especially in Mary Baraka for me, where he was just like, you know, can you kill for your art? And like all this stuff. And I felt like, oh my God, is my work Black enough? I felt like there was pressure in every poem to be like, I'm Black. And then after a while, I was just like, but wait a second. That's so generic. There are many Black people. What is my poem? What is the specificity of me? And if there's something that I'm writing about a butterfly, is that not about Blackness? Is that not about my Black? I mean, but that was a journey that I had to take. So to get back to your question, I feel like validating my identity no longer is a valuable goal for me in terms of my art making practice. Okay? And it's hard, because then there always are going to be critics that are going to have something to say about my identity, or going to use my identity as the only scrim from which to assess evaluate or offer feedback on what I've done. So even if it's about a butterfly, because I did it, they're gonna talk about it being about Blackness, whether or not I wanted it to be, because that's the apparatus of critical trying to make it, you know what I'm saying? But then me as an artist, I have to be very grounded. What am I trying to do? Who is it for? What is my audience? What are the expectations that I have for myself? What are the expectations that I feel from other people? Are those real expectations or are those voices in my head? Like that's an artistic process, but that is growth. That's development. That's exciting. That's where your work can actually go someplace else. And also, what are you afraid of? That's a big question. That doesn't mean to jump off and do the thing you're afraid of immediately, but just notice what's making you nervous to talk about or to write about or to do. Why? So those are some of the questions I know with my students we work with. And also, don't take yourself to a place you can't get yourself back from either. My mentor, Omiyoshin O'Neil Jones, that's one of the things that she says. Notice, but if you're about to get into, you feel like you're about to open up some can of worms, but you don't have a support system or you don't quite know where it's gonna go, be careful. Just notice and recognize that being an artist and being a person, hopefully you have a long time to figure it out. You don't have to do it all right now. So those are some thoughts that I have about that. How are we doing? Yes.
It is so good to see you perform again.
So happy to see you too.
It really is. I remember the Anna Cohen like
Yes.
in the CSA, and I remember all the things in Minneapolis.
Yeah.
And I've known you as a person living in Minneapolis, which is a thing.
Yeah.
In Mexico City, as a person from Detroit, I already lived in New York, but I think it's you know, when you're talking about we have these set narratives, I think, you know, one of the narratives that we have in Haitian diaspora is it's Miami, right? Like, and in fact, it's diaspora, so
Yeah.
it's everywhere. And you and I had a really, really brief conversation. I'm native to California, so I feel like I should apologize often for California Black people. Most people came from Louisiana, and Texas, but have been isolated in other kinds of ways. So we had a brief conversation about what is it like to be here in California. And one of the things that I found out last summer that has, I want to say blown my mind, but so African Americans are leaving the state of California, and it's not that great. And but the largest group of growing Black population in California is Haitian and West African.
No way.
And so there was a Black education symposium here last summer where an African American person from California said, like it or not, the future of Black California is Haitian.
Wow.
And that this has happened because Texas and Florida, right? Like it's,
Right.
and the California border,
Right.
and so city. So I just, I think I'm throwing, I guess it's a provocation more than a question, but like, what is it to perform as a Haitian? Like, what is the Haitian elsewhere that is here in California? And I'm really struck by the Harry Belafonte song that's not a Harry Belafonte song, right? Like, that, like, I think the way that things are erased, and even when I'm like, okay, well, so everybody in California is from Louisiana, where's everybody in Louisiana? Right, like the ways that we don't acknowledge, and that in this political moment, understanding that Black people, African American people in California need to align with Haitian, because there's not a difference. This is Black California.
Right.
Like, what is it to, and I'm not asking you to be like, I am Haitian, Los Angeles, right? Like in the way of like, I am Black, but I'm really interested in the complexity with which you perform, right? Like in place and out of place.
Right.
As a Haitian feminist performance artist in, you know, blend it, right?
Right, exactly.
Anyway, I'm just really grateful, and I look forward to more.
First of all, I'm so thankful to know that more Haitians will be here. because I'm so excited to be able to get soup joumou. Or just like the food, you all. How many of you have had Haitian food? It's so good. It's so delicious, and I don't have a connect here, so.
Just
you do. Please let me, all right, well, now I do, but, it's interesting that you say that, because growing up in the Midwest, that was another way where I felt like I wasn't authentically Haitian, because there wasn't, we didn't have a little Haiti in Detroit. And growing up, especially when I did, it was just like, you were Black, and it was like, oh, what flavor of Black are you? You're Honduran, you're Panamanian, you're Grenadian, you're whatever, like, you're Puerto Rican sometimes, like, whatever, but at that time, it wasn't sophisticated and nuanced collectively. In your own home, you understood what your own immigrant things were, but in my region, or maybe it was because I had an African-American mother, that's another thing that made it so I did not even know until I moved to New York City that West Indian people and African Americans beefed. I was like, I'm sorry, what? That never even occurred to me. I was like, why would you all not like each other? Like, oh, okay. So it's interesting because one of the reasons, like a Haitian elsewhere in California for me is this conference. When Dasha reached out, I was like, oh, I have to be there. Even if I had not been invited to come do this, which I did not thank everyone properly. I'm so thankful and honored to be here. I would have come here just to listen, because it's a huge part of my identity that I feel like I need to tend to, and it's important to me. Even if other people don't see it or know it, I know it. I know it's a part of who I am. And so part of what I think the arrival of more West African migrants and Haitian migrants into the state gives especially Black folks an opportunity to do just what you said, to look at the complexity and diversity of Blackness, and to recognize the true meaning of intersectionality, which is around how there's a greater difference inside of groups than there is actually with groups and other groups, and really to recognize that and use that as a source of solidarity and strength. For me, what I have to do is get my work that's related to Haiti bound and circulated together in a way that makes me more legible and allows people to understand that when they're dealing with me, that is a major part of what they're dealing with. Some people might know that, some people don't. And I think it's just that visibility, that legibility in my own practice that's important. And that's really about this book and trying to get that. Because I've done a lot of work, but bringing it together. So one thing about performance is ephemeral. So we're in this moment together, and I thank you for being here, because we will not have, this is our moment, and then we're all gone and it's over, right? So this is a thing we get to share in real space and time. I turn to writing as a space to try to move into some realm of the eternal, to take whatever that ephemeral moment was and document it and hold it. And that's where the performance writing then creates a space where these ephemeral performances of identity, of space, of location, of else here and elsewhere, then get to come together, and people can use that to help build their own understandings. So those are some of my thoughts, although I want to think about all that more. And I have a feeling we're at the end of our time. Is that true?
It is, but
Yes, I have books. I brought the cheapest student-friendly books if people are interested. $10.
if you want to carry forward this
Yeah.
amazing moment, so we thank you so much for being with us. Activating space, orienting ourselves, and starting to grapple with the power of the moving body. So thank you again, and we invite you all to our 5 p.m. continuation in SSMS 2135 to continue being together.
Thank you all.